Hi guys, welcome to day 6 of my 119 days daily posting videos. And to celebrate the 6 days, I am going to give you 6 strategies today that you can implement if you are not already implementing these in your world journey. As you know, the channel is about all things investing in you, and I want to make sure that you're set up for success because as we are all on this journey, I wish I knew some of these things earlier, even though I've never really been frivolous with my money, but I've also never been intentional about it either until I started my wealth journey. So these would have been helpful tips. I hope they are helpful, and some of them you probably already know, but we're going to just dig deep and go in. And by the end of this video, my hope is that you leave with something tangible that you can implement in your day and your daily money movements, monthly, quarterly, annually, and the works. All right, so I hear a lot of conversations going on about either Dave Ramsey's point of view of paying off debt, or Susan Osman, if that's her name, idea about investing. And this video is not gonna be about that. Well, it encompasses both of those aspects of things because I think they're both important. But it's not about who is right or wrong, and it's not anything controversial. It's really just ways that we can be mindful of how we're showing up on this journey and just ways to make it better. So on the topic of Dave Ramsey though, I'm just gonna go through the 7 baby steps. I have them written down here just so I don't miss any. For those who don't know, it's something that you can easily find on the internet, but just for the purpose of the video, I'm just going to go through them. Because even though these are 7 steps, ideally, I kind of have my own version of it, which is what I'm going to walk through, but I'm just going to mention these just so that you know what they are. So step 1 is save $1,000, which is basically your startup emergency fund, because the data suggests that a huge percentage of the American population cannot afford $1,000 debt. And obviously, Dave Ramsey is in the US and he's talking about US, but if you're anywhere else in the world, that you can find what that number is. I would say probably in Jamaica, $100,000 can cover some things, not everything, but obviously $1,000 cannot cover everything here either. So you're just picking a number, putting that down, so that you have some money set aside so that you do not get yourself into unnecessary consumer debt. All right, and the next one is step 2 is pay off debt, except your mortgage if you have a house. Then step 3 is save 3 to 6 months expenses, which is the exact amount of money that you need to get through every month should you be laid off or not be able to work. Step 4 is invest 15% of your household income. And step 5 is save for your children's college. Step 6 is to pay off your mortgage. And step 7 is to build wealth and give. All right, so that's Dave Ramsey's 7 steps of building wealth. And I'm going to jump into what I take away from that and how I kind of mimic that in a way to or adjust it to just suit my life and my preferences. So the first thing that I do, and this is I'm just gonna go through the steps. These are things that I'm doing for myself, and I'm just gonna share those steps with you guys. All right. So the first step is assessing your income and your expenses. You need to know exactly how much you make every single month. Every time you get paid, you need to know how much money hits your bank account like clockwork. When somebody ask you how much money do you get paid, you shouldn't be guessing, oh, around 30,000 or around 50,000. You should know exactly $52,480. Like you should know that number, right? You should know it without doubt. Once the money hits your account, you should know your money that you're getting before tax. You should know your money you're getting after tax as it comes in, right? The next thing you should know is the amount of expenses that you have every month. Everything that you're paying for. Every single thing down to the T. Money should not be coming out of your account and you don't know where it's going. I don't know if you've ever watched I've literally the Mr. Bean. I don't know if you ever watched Mr. Bean. Not the Is it Mr. Bean? It's the car show with the yeah, I don't remember the name, but there is this. It's one of my favorite shows. I'm really not sure why I don't remember the name though, but they had the vigilante in there, and I was gonna use a reference to say that you should actually be that obsessed with your accounts. Be a vigilante, be a stalker. Instead of stalking people's social media or stalking things that don't concern you, you should be stalking your own accounts. You should know exactly how much money is coming in every month and how much money is going out every single month. And while you're assessing all of these numbers and finding out what's coming out, what's going in, you're going to create a budget for yourself, right? So when you create the budget, you know exactly, this is what I'm spending. These are all the things that I'm spending every single month. This is everything that's coming in every single month. And this is really for people who are serious, because there's no point in you creating a budget if you're not going to stick to it. The budget is basically helping you to decide what you're spending your money on, instead of you just spending it without thinking, without being thoughtful, considerate, anything. It gives your money structure, it gives your money flow, it gives your money a home, and it helps you to see your spending habits. Right? And when you're going through these expenses, I want you to ask yourself this one very important question. Are all of these expenses necessary? We all have needs, right? We know food, clothing, shelter, needs. All of those are needs, right? And then we have our wants, because at the end of the day, you're probably going to spend the money anyway. So, of course, when you're creating your budget, you're allocating some of that for your wants. If you're a female, that's hygiene, maintaining yourself, and likewise for a male. So, there are things that you actually want to keep up your maintenance. Want you look good, you feel good, you act good. So those are things that you also put in your budget. You create a miscellaneous funds for all of those personal things. But when I talk about necessary, I'm talking about, do you actually need Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu? Like, for real though. Even if all the shows are not on these platforms, I actually don't know what shows are on all of them, because I don't have all of them. I more likely see advertisements about this show being on Prime or this show being on Hulu. I've had Netflix at many different stages, but I don't have Netflix right now. And it's not saying that you cannot have these amenities, because it's your choice anyway. You literally don't have to listen to anything I say. But it's about creating structure. If you're gonna watch one of these platforms, pick one. You don't need all three. That's just my opinion. I don't think you need all three. And so, one of the things that I want you to really think about is understanding that when you're building wealth, you actually have to live below your means for a very long time, to keep things progressing. It's not saying that you're going to give up everything that you like for the rest of your life, but you have to give something up. That's just really how it works. All right, so once we assess the income and we create a budget, now we're going to move on to this next thing. So when you do that budget though, one thing that you're going to see is if you're making a profit, which means you have less expenses than income. So you have more disposable income. If all of the income is the same amount as your expenses, which means you're breaking even, or if your expenses are greater than your income, which means your bank account is in negative, you're not making enough money and you're spending more than you make. The latter scenario is the least one that we want. Of course, we definitely want more disposable income. But say, for example, You're at the stage where you're breaking even. You literally just have enough to cover your bills. The next step is really to increase your income. This could be changing your job, finding a higher paying job in your field. If that's not something that if you don't want a job up right now, you just got your job, or you just don't want to deal with the instability of the job market, totally understandable. You can probably start a side project, start something that you can get some extra cash, right? Because there's really two ends to the spectrum. You're either gonna live extremely frugal, which is necessary at some point, but it's not. Nobody really wants to give up everything that they want for the rest of their life. Like, you really want to enjoy the fruits of your labor at some point. So yes, you start off living frugal until you get to a certain level, but you also have to increase your income so that you can start bringing back these things that you enjoy into your lifestyle once you get to a certain threshold, right? But this one thing though that is can I talk? Ruining the progress that a lot of people are making is lifestyle creeps. So the moment you get that $100,000 promotion, now you move out of your parents' house, you move out of your 1-bedroom comfortable apartment. Now you're gone to a 2-bedroom apartment for $80,000 a month, and you're the only one living there. Like, make it make sense. Your phone isn't broken, now you're upgrading your phone. Your car isn't broken, now you're upgrading your car. You were okay just going to Panama and Costa Rica, now you want to go to France and Brazil. And these are all places that I want to go, by the way. But time and place for everything, right? And if every time you increase your income, you increase your expense, you increase your income, you increase your expense, you are still living paycheck to paycheck, even though you're earning more money. No. Why did you go get that extra money just to spend it off and say, I don't know where my money went? Really? You don't know where your money went? Or it's just that you don't want to reflect on what you're doing that is removing the money that you're earning, the extra money that you're earning, just by adding things every time your paycheck add. And this is not to say that you can't add stuff. You had, but you have to pick. Just like I mentioned in the example, you don't need Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu. So if you get some extra money now and you say, okay, you want to add a streaming platform, pick one. So you are adding things, but you're not adding them at the same rate of your increase in income, because it's going to defeat the purpose of getting that increased income. All right? And the main purpose of this increase is to do several different things. One of these things is, if you have debt, clear it off. Not all debt is bad, right? Not all debt is bad debt. A lot of debts are bad debt. And one way to assess if it's a bad debt is if the interest rates are super high. You're paying back triple or double or triple the price of the loan that you took out. That's not necessarily a good debt. And especially what you're going to use it for. Because if what you're going to use it for is going to give you, is going to be able to pay back the loan and also give you a great return on your investment, you're going to make a profit on that loan, then that can be a good loan. But many loans, many consumer loans, many things that we take loans for are not necessarily good loans. So identify that, and if you have a lot of loan, it's going to be challenging for you to get to a certain level, because the money that you should be using to save and to invest, you're using it to pay loan all the time. And it's really a matter of just your personal preference and lifestyle, because we have Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Where the author is talking about the fact that if you really want to become wealthy, you have to use debt. You have to get into debt and use other people's money as a leveraging tool, right? And you also have the other end of the spectrum, where it's just like you take on all these debt, you're drowning, you cannot maintain your lifestyle, and you are just constantly in debt and being a slave to the owner. You're working jobs you don't like to pay off that debt. So at the end of the day, it's just based on what your personal preference is. Some people use debt and it makes them wealthy. Some people use debt, it makes them bankrupt. You just have to know what you personally want. Me personally, I don't like being in debt. I don't like anything just hanging over me. And from as I am on my journey of clearing off debt, it's really emotionally heavy for me also. So that's just my personal preference. So if you're like me, this natural next step is to get out of debt. It gives you options. You can intentionally choose the things that you want to do. You don't have to defaultly take up any opportunity just because you know you have to clear off the debt. And a lot of people I know have given up on this idea of clearing it off because it feels so overwhelmingly heavy. But in one of my previous videos this week or last week, I talked about the fact that the moment I sat down and I looked at my numbers, I could develop a plan. I was avoiding to look at it for years because I was so overwhelmed. Every time I was making the minimum payments because that's just what I could afford. And it wasn't moving and it was so discouraging. But when I got so tired of it and I sat down and I'm saying I'm getting rid of this right now. Well, not literally right now, but within a year, as soon as possible. Like, I want to be done with it. I was able to create a plan to know, okay, this is exactly how much I need to pay. And I had to double my payments. That's hard. But I'd rather do that than have it lingering over my back and just feeling down and pitiful and sorry for myself when I can actually do something about it. All right, so don't be discouraged if you have a little bit of debt or a huge amount of debt. Just create a plan, see how much you need to pay, if you can double your payments, if you can, do more, do it. Right? So this is one of the reasons why you need that disposable income. That's why we're living below our means, so that we can have the disposable income to take care of things. You may feel bondages, but it's actually setting you free. All right, so this next step is to save emergency fund. To save some money for your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is basically the amount of money that you need to live on a monthly basis. If you lose your job, this is exactly how much you need to cover all of your bills for that month. In Dave Ramsey's 7 steps, he says 3 to 6 months, but me personally, I think 6 months to a year is the sweet spot, because especially in the job market, if you really lose your job, it's probably going to take you at least a year to get back something, or even more than that, to be honest. I was unemployed once for a year and a half. That's a long time to be without money. So 6 months to a year is my sweet spot. If you can do 3 to 6 months, do it. Don't be discouraged by that. Some people like to do 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, and then they have a rainy day fund of the same 3 to 6 months, which is basically a year. So that's the same concept. I just do it for a year off the bat. Right? So we're assessing our income and expenses so far and creating a budget and reducing any unnecessary expense so that we can live below our means. Right? We're increasing our income, whether by training a job or by creating different income streams alongside our 9 to 5. We're clearing off debt if we have debt. And if we don't have debt, we just jump straight in and save up for our emergency fund. 3 to 6 months or 6 months to a year, your choice. After we finish, you hear the part after we're done. After we finish all of those things though, which actually some of them can happen simultaneously, but I think it's easier to just do one thing at a time so you keep yourself focused and you're not overwhelming yourself. So after you saved up your emergency fund, now with that same disposable income, we're going to invest. Now, Investing is not only the stock market. That's one avenue that you can invest in, right? There are different avenues. Obviously, if you're working for an employer that offers benefit, you have the Roth IRA, the 401k, and these other retirement accounts, as well as if you're not working for an employer, you can open individual accounts separate from your job. If you're in Jamaica, this is the NIS. Even if you're not working for a job, you can literally go to the NIS, National Insurance Scheme, and get some cards, and you go to the post office and you pay for the stamps and you put it on, and then you turn it in at the end of the year. That will be your retirement when you get to that age. So these are ways that you're investing in your future, because the investing is for your future, right? It's for your future. If you're considering to invest in the stock market, go to a professional, go to one of the banks. They have, every single institution has a lot of different products and a lot of different plans, right? But I want to say one thing: do not invest into anything that you don't understand. Do your research and learn for yourself. Not because Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is the new in thing means you should take all of your money and put it into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and you don't even understand how your money is growing there. You don't understand anything about the market. I also wouldn't advise you to invest in an individual stock unless you are very knowledgeable about that stock and that company and how it's going, if they've been around for a year, if they're doing great things and you like what's going on in the company. This is not financial advice, but I would always suggest that you invest in an index fund or a mutual fund. And these are basically a pool of many different companies from many different industries that are under one fund. So it's still risky, just like every other investment. It's still a risky investment. However, the risk is diversified across different industries. So even if one of those industries fail, all of them aren't going to necessarily fail at the same time. So these are things that you can read up on and find out what's out there. And obviously you can invest in international markets, the emerging markets, growth markets, the main markets. So if you're in this, if you're in the US, you can invest out of the US. If you're outside of the US, you can invest in the US and different countries around the world as well. And Jamaica has literally had one of the most fast growing S&P literally for a couple of years now. So you can check out the companies that are there that are performing well and have been performing well for a couple of years now, decades, centuries. But speak to your financial advisor, speak to the banks that you have, the institutions that you're part of, and they can better advise you as to where to go. And also do your own research. Because if some of these professionals don't have your best interests at heart, they just want to make a commission off you. And if you go into the wrong, and they're going to advise you to take out products because you don't know anything, and they're going to take advantage. The right people will not take advantage, but the wrong people will. And they don't look any different. So you can't always tell just by looking at somebody if they're the right or wrong person. So do your own research and find out if you're interested in investing in the stock market. If you have a lot of disposable income, you can invest in real estate. You can buy a piece of land, you can build a house, or you buy a house that's already established. You can refurbish it if it needs refurbishing. You can rent it out short term, long term for residential. You can also buy buildings and rent them out for commercial. If you have money, you can find ways to invest it. You just need to have the money. That's why we have to live below the means, so we can get the money to do different things, because the opportunities are there. You can also start a business. The past couple of days, I went through the top industries in Jamaica that are blooming. You can find one of those industries, find what you're interested in, find what gap is there, and find out how you can make it different and start a business in one of those industries with the disposable income that you have. So as I said, it's not just the stock market. That's just one way to invest. Anything that you put your money in that gives you a dollar on it, a cent on it, all of those are investments. It's just been conditioned to think investment is the stock market, and because we don't understand it, we just don't invest. Because we're thinking, oh, I don't know what to do. Only invest into what you know and continue to expand your knowledge and learn. Right? And of course, while you're learning about what you're investing in, you're also learning about different strategies to preserve it. There are a lot of tax benefits to real estate, which is exactly why a lot of the wealthy people go into real estate after they built their wealth in businesses. They transfer it to real estate and go into estate planning and so forth, because they know that they have a lot of tax savings and tax benefits from real estate. So our job is just really to educate ourselves and to find out what are the opportunities that are there and how we can benefit from them. And this is the next step for me, is just one of the next steps that Dave Ramsey also said, and one that I believe in, which is being generous. I truly believe that you get what you give. Like, you literally will get it back. And it's also like somebody is invested in us. Somebody along the way has invested in us for us to be able to invest in ourselves. So the least we can do is just pay it forward. This is not to say that you're going to give away every single dollar that you work hard for. And as you notice, this is the last thing I said. So before we're doing all of this massive philanthropy, we're creating the budget, we're increasing the income, we're saving, we're investing, we're creating our emergency fund. So we have a foundation, right? The Bible says, love others as you love yourself, which means you have to take care of yourself first. So we're doing all of these things to make sure that we're okay. And then we're blessing others. We're lifting others as we climb. There's nothing more attractive than a generous person. Well, who has good character. Because you can literally just be out here waving money in people's face and not being a nice person. So I'm not talking about that. But it's really, people just love to be around people who are kind and giving, because it inspires them to be kind and giving too. The osmosis, which is, you attract what you are around you. Anything that's around you, you absorb it. It's a real thing. And we want to just be out here being generous to people because somebody along the way was generous to us. And you're not going to be broke just because you give. Because as I've seen in my own life many times, you get it back all the time. Even sometimes double and triple the portion. All right, so I hope these were helpful tips that you can implement on your wealth journey. And I hope that you've already started some of these. But if you haven't, get on with it. Let's get on with it. Let's take this serious. Let's really make the most of what we're doing here. And if you stumble, you can always get back up. If you've not been budgeting for a couple of months, you can always come back up and start your budget. It's never too late. I'm never going to come on here and shame anybody. I mean, I will tell you that you don't need 3 subscriptions, because you really don't need Netflix, Hulu, and Prime. You really don't. I'm just being honest. Right? But it's never about shaming. It's really just to identify our patterns and to really change it, to do something different so that we can get different results. All right, that's all I have for this video today. I hope it was very informative to you. If we haven't met before, I'm Khrista-Lee and I talk all things investing in you. If you found this video informative and interesting, please consider subscribing, give the video a like and a thumbs up, and turn on your notification bell so you can be notified when I post the next video tomorrow. And comment below what stood out to you the most. Which strategy are you implementing? Which is the most challenging for you? Or which is the easiest? Because who's to say you're not already killing it? Right? Let me know in the comments below so that we can continue the conversation there. And until then, I'll see you tomorrow. Let's go make some mistakes. Bye.